Hello you guys and welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you're new here. I'm really excited about this video. It also took me forever to make it because I just felt like this is a very important topic, and it's one of the biggest topics I've ever covered on my channel. So I felt like I needed to be really prepared. Yeah, I had a little bit of perfectionism when it comes to that, when it comes to this, but I think that I'm ready to talk about victim mentality. All right, this is a really big topic. I'll do my absolute best in order to cover this topic well and to talk about victim mentality, perpetual victimhood, and how to get rid of that, how to step out of this loop of perpetual victimhood, how to stop seeing yourself as a victim always, everywhere, at all times. Okay? Now, before we begin, this video is not for actual victims, all right? If you're an actual victim of a person, of some event, of some circumstances, it doesn't really matter. They're actual victims. We're not talking about you at all. So please do not take this personally. This is not victim blaming whatsoever. A completely different topic here. We're talking about people who wear victimhood as a mask, or honestly not even as a mask. People who make victimhood their whole personality, or at least a very significant part of it, okay? And it affects them personally, and it affects people around them. So if you recognize people like that in your circle, drop a comment. You will recognize that. You will recognize the signs. You know exactly what it looks like and what it feels like to be around people like that. You know how insufferable they can be and how unhelpful they are, how these people just like it's a whole thing. We'll talk about it today. Okay? Now, another thing. If you are going to recognize any of these signs, any of these features in yourself, this is not your sign to run away. It's not your sign to immediately numb your feelings and pretend like this has nothing to do with you, okay? I feel like a lot of people struggle with this, and that's okay. It's your sign to lean in and listen closer, okay? Because I'm going to be talking about how to break free from this mentality, how to like free yourself from this, okay? I'm going to give you actual tips and we'll talk about this. It's a safe space, all right? A safe zone. So we're not blaming anybody here. I am just trying to help you. You can take my advice, you can apply it to your life, and your life will get better. Because being stuck in a victim mentality can honestly ruin your life. It can ruin your relationships, it can ruin your personal life, it can ruin your career, it can ruin everything and anything around you, okay? Your life, but also the lives of people around you. Because honestly, if people choose to stay around people like that, that is going to hurt them. Because listen, I have seen that many times. This is not a fun thing to witness, okay? If you are a person like this, it's also important to recognize how it affects people around you. That people, even the people who love you, will not always have the bandwidth to handle you. You know what I'm saying? And we're going to deal with that. But another thing is that it's not even so much about other people, because like depending on how you behave in real life, regardless of how you view yourself, right? Because I feel like some people can feel like victimizing themselves can make them look complimentary and like can make them look good, can like make them look better somehow. No, it doesn't. It makes you look better in the eyes of people who are just like you. And I don't listen. No, we're not doing that. We are dismantling that that outlook. Okay, regardless of anything, victim mentality, even if it doesn't affect people around you, depending on what you actually do and how you actually behave, it damages your mental health. It damages your self-image, your self-perception. It damages your life, okay? That's a very important thing here, because I'm going to assume that maybe you don't do much damage to people around you, right? You're very mindful. However, I just want you to be very aware. Generally, mindfulness is going to be a big theme of this video and of this topic. And yeah, we'll talk about it later. But also, I just want you to remember something. You do not attract what you want, you attract what you are. That's very relevant to this topic today, okay? Because I believe that I You're most likely here because you want to be doing better. You want to be feeling better as well. It's impossible to reach that goal if you are stuck in victimhood mentality, because victimhood mentality keeps you small, even though it has its own perks, secret perks or not so secret perks, hidden or not so hidden, doesn't really matter. I talk about this in videos about insecurity as a personality, in a video where I talk about why you shouldn't trust people who don't love themselves. Like, we have a theme going on here, is what I'm trying to say. Like, you will need to change your behavior in order to change your life. All right? Anyways, let's get started. Now, let's talk about the features and general associations that I have with people with victim mentality and people who don't have victim mentality. Just in order for us to get clear on what that actually means. Again, we're not talking about real victims here. Victim mentality, I have a bunch of notes by the way, is generally associated with someone powerless, okay? Someone who has absolutely no power because you're a perpetual victim, okay? You're a victim. You have no agency. That's another thing. That's someone without agency. If you are someone who is always dependent on other people, you have no power, all right? Besides the power of manipulation. But that's a different thing. And that's, that power has its own limitations, let's just put it that way. Okay, and it's like a very questionable power to begin with. Now, this person also has no boundaries, understandably so, right? Like if it's a person that perceives everything as a personal attack, because that's usually how that goes. It's a huge feature of people stuck in victimhood. These people feel entitled to cross boundaries of other people also, because they feel like their boundaries were crossed and everybody else is to blame for it. Now, they have the full right to cross boundaries of other people, okay? And to step over the line. That's a big one, honestly. I have seen this a lot, and well, I know I've seen this a lot actually. It's disgusting. I know. Together with that goes that person has no respect for other people, except if those people have higher status than them in whichever capacity matters to them. So if some person is wealthier, has more power, or that person can give them something that they want, then that person is respected. Other than that, people with victim mentality do not have respect for other people. And if they perceive you like smaller than them, they will treat you really, really poorly. They will treat you really, really poorly. They will blame you for all of their mistakes. They will blame you for everything in their life going wrong. Please be mindful. Okay? Please be mindful. And, if the shoe fits, we'll talk about it. Now, this person is also very easily triggered, understandably, right? I talked about this in some of my other videos, that your triggers are not other people's responsibilities, okay? Please do not make people around you walk on eggshells, okay? Because not everybody knows your history, not everybody knows what happened to you, not everybody knows about your mental health or, specific details about you. Your triggers are your responsibility and they're up to you to be managed, okay? Because you have no idea what triggers other people have, what other people have gone through. Please, we're not making assumptions here, and we are being respectful to other people and to ourselves as well, okay? But people with victimhood, victim mentality, 100% are so easily triggered. And because, like I said, they're dependent on other people always and they have no power, they're also unreliable. Like, you cannot rely on them, because in order to be relied upon, to be reliable, you need to have agency, you need to have some kind of personal power and to be a reliable person. These people are not like this. Usually, I'm painting with very wide strokes here, as you might have noticed. These are general features. If you can think of any other features of people with victim mentality, please let me know in the comments, because that's the things that I could think of on top of my head when I was thinking about this as well, because I feel like these are the most obvious ones as well. But if you can think of any other ones, please let me know in the comments, especially if it's something like really specific. Now, let's talk about people who do not have victim mentality, all right? So that's going to be the opposite of that. That kind of person is associated with having power, all right? It doesn't mean you're the most powerful person in the room, doesn't mean that you are taking some kind of high position financially or in your career. It's not about that. You have personality. period. Okay, you have personality and you have personal power. Every single person has personal power if they choose, they decide to see that. All right, so that's number one. Another thing is that that person, of course, like I said before, mirroring basically from the previous group, that person has agency. Okay, that person has agency. It's an adult. All right, you don't have to be an adult to be fair for that, but nonetheless, okay, that person is reliable and that person can be independent. I'm not saying that you have to be independent at all times. When you have relationships with other people, it's perfectly normal and okay, and it is a good thing to be able to rely on them, right? You don't have to be independent at all times. That's an issue on its own. But if need be, that person can be independent, okay, and that person can be relied on by other people. That person, of course, also has boundaries. All right. And that person has respect for other people, regardless of their financial status, regardless of their career, regardless of any other power they hold. Doesn't really matter any of those things. You are judged based on your character and your personality, not on your position of power and what that person can get from you, basically. And of course, person without victim mentality can take accountability and can apologize for their mistakes, all right? Doesn't mean that that person doesn't get triggered, but that person manages his or her triggers. That's very important because people can have different kind of triggers. Again, it's up to us to manage them, but it's about how you behave. It's not about being a perfect person with perfect mental health and like perfect everything. This is not about that. Now, you guys, if you have recognized any of the things from the column, the section where I talked about people with victim mentality, please, again, I want you to welcome you extra hard to sit down for this conversation because I'm going to be talking right now how to break free from that, okay? That is okay. A lot of the times, these kind of behaviors are adopted by us from the people, we grew up around, for example, or from like our friends, people from our circles and stuff like that, right? When we were younger, it doesn't really matter. When we were growing up, these behaviors are very, very infectious, which is why I keep talking about it and which is why I keep talking about mindfulness, all right? A victim mentality is very, very easily adapted because, again, one of the hidden or not so hidden perks is that you completely rid yourself of any and all responsibility. Okay, it's very easy to blame everything on other people and on like outward circumstances. And not to say that outward circumstances are not to blame for a lot of things, because that is true, right? But if that is the case and everybody already knows that, there's no point talking about this all the time and not doing anything at all in order to improve your life. You can always do something about your life in order to improve it, okay? Even if it's something very, very small. That's number one. Another thing, you can always view yourself as a full-formed adult person, okay? You can always view yourself as a person with some power and with some agency. You do not have to view yourself as a victim, regardless of what happens to you, And that's another really important thing. It's how you view yourself. It's about your self-image, all right? So that's a really big thing as well. Now let's talk about how do we heal from this, basically. How can you help yourself to break free from this loop of victim mentality, okay? Now, you develop self-awareness and you become more mindful. I mean, as if it couldn't be any other way, to be honest with you. Now, this is not the part when you necessarily do something. This is the part when you slow down and you observe your own behaviors, okay? And you come from a non-judgmental place. This is really important as well. I'm not saying that you should slow down and observe your horrible behaviors or what you do to other people or what you do to yourself. You just observe, okay? You just slow down and you start to notice and identify your behaviors and your patterns and your triggers as well, okay? When it comes to actions, it's really helpful to actually document that. You note down what you notice. You recognize certain patterns that you keep repeating over and over again. You notice certain triggers that bother you, that like evoke certain reactions from you, right? And it's important, it's going to be really, really helpful to note that down. So journaling. Yes, journaling. Once again, you could journal those behaviors and those patterns out, and also your feelings, okay? You do not jump to conclusions. You do not jump to blaming yourself immediately, right? Or to blaming whoever else. We're not blaming anybody here, okay? You just note it down and you notice and note down your own feelings about this, okay? It's gonna be complicated feelings. Whatever you feel is completely legit, all right? So just note that down. In this next part, we're going to be reclaiming our agency, okay? We're going to be taking responsibility. This is the biggest thing someone recovering from victim mentality can possibly do, literally ever, is to take responsibility and take accountability. There's literally nothing more important that you can do than take responsibility, because the epitome of someone who has a victim mentality is having no responsibility at all. Everybody else is to blame. When you take responsibility, power shifts, because now you have power too. Okay? There's nothing wrong with apologizing to people that you hurt. There's nothing wrong with apologizing to yourself for the stuff you did to yourself, okay? There's nothing wrong with admitting that you actually did something wrong, okay? It doesn't make you look good. If anything, it makes you look like a better person. But it's not just about that. It's about actually changing your behaviors as well. So let's take it one step at a time. So you actually start focusing on your behaviors and your actions, all right? Instead of focusing on everybody else, instead of judging everybody else and pointing fingers, you focus your attention on yourself. Not like in an egocentric kind of way, but you focus on your behaviors and you focus on your actions, okay? You also focus on the things that you can control, which are exactly that. Now, you pause every time you want to blame outward circumstances or other people, again, like you did in the past. That's a very normal thing to, repeat your old behaviors. That doesn't mean that you are slipping. It just means that you are doing the thing that you're used to doing. And your job here is going to slow down, like in the previous part, and to note that down and change that behavior. Okay, you're going to slow down, stop, and think before you blame other people and events. Okay, generally speaking, stop blaming everything else at all times. All right, it's important to look at yourself as well. This one is very, very important, okay? You're going to shift your focus from dwelling on a problem, because sometimes problems just happen and sometimes it's just not your fault, okay? But instead of dwelling on the problem, I want you to focus on solutions. I want you to focus on finding a solution, on solving this problem, and trying to get out of the situation instead of getting stuck in it even further. This next thing is that I want you to recognize your mistakes and your shortcomings. If you need to apologize to someone for what you did, I want you to do that, okay? If you notice that you have some shortcomings that are not necessarily to blame for anything, but this is just something that you're not happy with about yourself, I want you to accept that, okay? I want you to work on accepting that. I will once again attach a link to a playlist with videos where I talk about processing your emotions ethically and ecologically, because I give a lot of very, very specific pieces of advice on processing different feelings. So you might find that very helpful. But accepting your shortcomings, accepting your flaws is a really big one, because people project a lot, and that also has to do with you, obviously. If you have some shortcomings, you can you can project that on other people without them even thinking about those shortcomings of yours. This is, you know what I'm saying? We're talking about you here. Please accept that. If you cannot change that, accept that. If you can change that, you might want to do that. If not, accept that, okay? And while you're at it, I want you to be doing that with love, not coming from a place of judgment and criticism, but coming from a place of love. Every single person has shortcomings. Every single person has flaws, and that is okay. Now, I want you to forgive other people. This is not always going to be very easy, but if you have it in you, if you think that you can, I want you to forgive other people. And if this is something you cannot do, I want you to shift your attention on again, your life and what you can do next moving forward in your life, right? If something did you wrong, if someone did you wrong or something like that, you can cut them out of your life, you can block them. You don't have to keep in touch with the people who hurt you. You don't have to be with the people who keep you small, who make you want to shrink and dim your light, and to be around the people who also have victim mentality and support the same kind of victim mentality in other people. If you feel like some people around you make you want to, like, make you feel guilty and bad for wanting to expand, for wanting to stop viewing yourself as a victim, those people are the problem. And I want you to deal with that, okay? In whichever way you feel like is more ethical. You do not have to keep in touch with everybody, okay? Now, I want you to forgive yourself. That's a big one, and that is honestly one of the most difficult things to do. Generally, in this whole list of things that you can do to help yourself, taking responsibility and forgiving yourself might actually be some of the hardest. Truly. Yeah, forgiving other people can be a lot easier sometimes, but I want you to do that. You can journal, you can talk to a therapist, you can talk to a good friend, you can meditate, you can spend some time in solitude and really think about this, but I really want you to forgive yourself for whatever it is that happened that you feel like you are to blame for. And if you haven't apologized once again to the people who you feel like you hurt, I want you to do that. But sometimes we feel really guilty and really bad for just something that we are, not for something that we did. And that is exactly what I want you to forgive yourself for, okay? And the next things, of course, are going to be very, very standard. And I will attach helpful links below. I've made some helpful videos on these topics before, but I want you to set boundaries. That's extremely important. You set boundaries for yourself. You don't set them for other people, all right? You don't let people push you past certain points, and I want you to spend some time thinking about that, all right? So please set boundaries and please practice upholding them, okay? Gently and with love, with compassion, and with respect. Okay, and I want you to practice self-care. That's a really obvious one as well. But when you start shifting your attention from being small, from being always to blame, from always, something always happening to you, right? To actually taking care of yourself, to actually working on your triggers. That's a big part of self-care, by the way, like actually working on your triggers and understanding that this is your responsibility and thinking about what you can actually do about that. All right. Again, I will attach all the helpful links down below. If you want me to talk about any other specific things, please let me know in the comments. I am always on the lookout for good topics. And if you want me to focus specifically on anything else from today's video or from just anything else in general, please let me know. I'll be really grateful for that. Now, anyways, you guys, this is it for today's video. Thank you so very much for watching it. I really hope that you found it helpful and insightful. If you have any thoughts about this, if you want to discuss this further in the comments, you're very welcome in the comment section down below. Please let me know what you think about this. Please let me know what thoughts you have on this topic. What do you think about self-victimization? What do you think about having victim mentality? If you have any other helpful tips, please let me know, because I feel like, again, it's a really, really big issue that I just really respect you for if you conquered that and if you worked on that. I know that I had to work on that a lot because it's really easy to fall into those patterns if you observe people around you behave the same way. And it's really difficult to step out of that because you have to learn how to do these things completely by yourself. So that's why I'm here to help you. So anyways, thank you so very much, you guys. Please subscribe to my channel. It really helps me and it helps me to bring you more fantastic videos. Please like this video, leave me a comment, and I will see you in the next one.